Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about the brewing war between Apple, Elon Musk, and Twitter, because it's a pretty interesting situation. I've been following it, even though at the time it started I was still kind of suspended on Twitter, but I've been keeping up with this entire thing as it's unfolded over the last 24 hours or so, and throughout that time period we have already learned a lot about this entire situation, and I really just kind of wanted to make a video talking about it, explaining everything that's going on, really breaking it down and giving my opinion on the entire situation. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on. So right now, Twitter and Apple are kind of having a little bit of a public spat, and a lot of that has been started because Elon Musk decided to go public with everything that's been going on, and it's a pretty interesting situation overall because if we're being real, this isn't really the first time we've seen Apple kind of in a predicament like this. They have been getting called out by companies over the last few years, left, right, and center for basically what we're going to be talking about today. A big piece of this, right, I guess is the best way to describe this. The big piece of this that I really want to talk about here is what people call the 30% Apple tax, right? So basically, if you didn't know, there's kind of like this thing Apple does, right, where if a company makes more than $1 million annually on the App Store, they take like a 30% cut of all the revenue that's generated through the App Store. So let's say you buy something that's $10 as like an in-game purchase or something, right, and the game is popular on the App Store. Apple basically takes 30% of that just for even having the App Store. Now, you realize that, of course, they have to take something, right? They've got to take a little money because they got to maintain the servers. They have to provide the service and everything, right? So it's not unfair for Apple to take money, but what people have debated is whether or not that 30% basically internet tax, if it's really worth it, right? If that's necessary in the first place. Because if we're being honest, like taking nearly a third of all revenue from the platform and everything, like that's a lot of money that's getting taken away from developers and from these companies and everything that are basically just running everything through the App Store so they can get downloads of their app and whatnot. And the problem is with the App Store is there's not really another official way to download apps on iPhone, which is one of the, of course, massive smartphone markets on the planet. So many people have iPhones, iPads, iPods, iTunes, whatever the fuck you want to throw at it at this point, man. Everyone's on that iTrend, if we're being honest. And so if you want to basically put your product in front of this massive portion of the consumer base, you have to just do what Apple says, and you have to pay that 30%. Now, of course, this has been widely debated on whether or not this is acceptable, but yesterday a situation unfolded between Twitter and Apple after Elon Musk tweeted this. Apple has mostly stopped advertising on Twitter. Do they hate free speech in America? Now, if you didn't know, recently a lot of companies and people have been taking their advertisements off of Twitter. A lot of them have been citing safety and security concerns. If you didn't know, Elon Musk is doing this like free speech revitalization of Twitter where they're debating granting amnesty to suspended accounts. They're opening up basically the guidelines so you can say a lot more on the platform. You know, they're trying to end a lot of the shadow banning or whatever. We've already covered that extensively, so like I don't really want to sit here and just like continuously hammer this home and everything. We already kind of know about this whole situation, right? And as a result of a lot of the changes Elon Musk has been making to the platform, companies, including Apple apparently, have basically been pulling advertising off of the platform, and he's calling them out for this, right? Now, he actually wasn't the only one to call them out. Actually, Library, LBRY, which is like a cryptocurrency, they actually tweeted in response to Elon Musk the following. During COVID, Apple demanded our apps filter some search terms from being returned. If we did not filter the terms, our apps would not be allowed in the store. Apple may make some good products, but they have been opposed to free speech for some time. Now, of course, if you've paid attention to Apple over the last few years, they're not necessarily known for playing the fairest, right? Now, I will say, I like Apple products. I'm literally holding an iPhone in my hand as we speak. I have an iPad downstairs. You know, my girlfriend's got an Apple Watch. We do the Apple thing, right? But it is pretty clear that as a company, they hold some pretty questionable values in business practice, right? They do some pretty shady shit, as a lot of companies their size do. Well, in reality, there's no company the size of Apple. They are the largest company on the planet, but, you know, major Fortune 500 companies are not known to be your friend. They don't really care about your rights. They don't care about you as a person. They could really give a shit less. Honestly, this shouldn't surprise anybody, man. Like, the idea that Apple would play unfair and they would, you know, try to bully people around like this and make these kinds of crazy demands and everything, not surprising in the slightest, right? Like, it just genuinely doesn't doesn't surprise me. I've never thought that a $1 trillion company was going to have my rights and my interests in mind, and that would be like something that they give a shit about, right? It doesn't add up, man. Let's be honest. Any of these companies, they couldn't care less. Dude, if we're being real also, Apple literally has like basically fucking slaves in like Asia and whatnot building their phones, working for like what, a couple dollars a day, and they probably got suicide nets around the building so they can't jump to their deaths. Like, I mean, if we really want to talk about the shit Apple's up to and a lot of these other companies are up to, we could sit here and make a 3-hour-long video just discussing it. I mean, shit. If I should make a long-form video talking about a lot of the atrocities and bullshit that Apple's been up to over the next few years, well, not the next few years, but the last few years, go ahead and leave a like on this video. Then, of course, Elon Musk continued the public crucifixion, or whatever you want to call it, of not Twitter, but Apple in this situation, right? He posted a poll on Twitter, and basically it says, Apple should publish all censorship actions it has taken that affect its consumers. Now, this has over 2.2 million votes. I voted on this, and of course, the overwhelming majority of people, almost 85-15 split, voted in favor of yes. Obviously, I don't think that's controversial, right? Like, I think people would love to know what these companies do and how they censor people and how basically what they do affects us on a daily basis. I mean, I for one would love to know what this is and like basically get a better understanding of these things, because I feel like people treat this shit like it's a conspiracy theory, man. Like if you talk to a normal person and you tell them the atrocities or the bullshit that's committed by companies like Apple on a daily basis, they shrug it off. And of course, a lot of the reason behind that is, well, oh, it doesn't affect me personally, so why do I care, right? It's not even a big deal, man. You know, like, who cares if Apple does this or does that? But in reality, this is the small shit that affects all of us. I mean, like I said, we're all consumers in the grand scheme of things. We're all potential customers. We're all people who these companies are relying on to make money. And it's important as consumers that we're aware of the shit that these companies do. And it's important that we're aware of the ways that they try to fool us and the ways that they try to oppress us and basically make us more likely to purchase products or be dependent on these companies. The Twitter files on free speech suppression soon to be published on Twitter itself. The public deserves to know what really happened. Now, this tweet in particular is very interesting because honestly, if this is real and these files are really coming out, we're going to see, especially like what Twitter did to suppress like the free speech on the platform and to like basically target free speech and to censor people. It's going to be really interesting to get a see at that, right? And to just kind of notice what they've done and just kind of get some answers, because like I said, people treat this shit like it's a conspiracy theory. And like, I don't agree with a lot of what Elon Musk says and does. I think he does some pretty outrageous, ludicrous shit sometimes. But I mean, the guy has a fair point on this one, right? More people should stand up to Apple and more companies should stand up to Apple and actually fight over this shit, because the truth of the matter is Apple is a monopoly. Like, they have a lot of control over basically everything they do. I mean, in any business they're in, they're significant in it. And like, that in itself isn't the problem. The problem is they're using that impact and they're using that force that they have in the market to drive some pretty undesirable outcomes for everybody out of it. And I think that's where the line should be drawn. And you know, people might be like, oh, Optimus, bro, you're a fucking hypocrite. You have an iPhone in your lap right now. You just got a notification on it, actually, man. You're just as reliant on the fucking crapple as everybody else. You know what, man? You're right. I am. I have an iPhone. I've given money to this company and financially supported them a lot. But I think that really just makes the point more valid, right? Like, as consumers, as people who these companies rely on in the first place to even exist, we should demand better. We should, as consumers, stand together and be like, hey, we don't appreciate this bullshit. And I know that that's really a tall order. That's asking a lot, because like I said, most normal people, you tell them about this kind of stuff going on, they could really care less. They don't even maybe even have an opinion on it, right? Because that's just how little it means to them. But the problem with that is when everyone is just so willfully ignorant about shit like this, and people are so willing to ignore these problems and not pay attention to what these corporations do, it gives them even more leeway to continue doing the toxic, stupid bullshit that they do to people, and how they basically fuck with society at large. It allows these companies to get away with it more. And it's like, man, do we really want to live in a society like that? Do us as people, do we really want that as our future for our kids, for us? And I know maybe like it sounds like I'm going off the deep end defend and I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but once again, man, this shit is not conspiracies. Like, these companies really do shit like this on a daily basis, and they fuck with people, and they threaten people, and they try to intimidate people into listening to them, into falling into line. And I, for one, think it's just something that people shouldn't sit around and tolerate. People shouldn't just be like, oh, fuck it, you know, they're worth $1 trillion, they can do whatever they want. Like, no, dude, we have to pay more attention and we have to care more about shit like this. So, like I said, while I don't agree with everything Elon has to say and what he has to do, honestly, I think it's pretty based that he's stepping up like this against Apple and he's willing to go to war with Apple in this way and actually call them out for the shit that they do. Because the truth of the matter is, dude, 99.9% of people, if put in that same position to put shit on the line like that, wouldn't say a word about any of this stuff going on. So anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. And of course, until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about the Apple monopoly that we live under, and signing out.